You won't believe this, but in this game, the king walked across the entire board and delivered checkmate. Yes, a royal king walk. Instead of hiding in safety, the king fearlessly marched forward, dodging threats and playing the most unexpected role in securing victory. Make sure to watch it till the end because this game is one of the most legendary games in the chess history. So let's begin. Okay, so white starts the game by pushing the pawn to e4 controlling the center, and now black plays the move knight to f6, which is already a bit odd move. The main move is to play the move e5 controlling the center, but we have the move knight to f6 instead. White pushed the pawn attacking the knight to d5, and now we have the move d4, grabbing maximum space in the center, and now we have the move d6, which is the main move, putting pressure in the center pawn, and now we have the move knight to f3. The main move is to play the move c4, grabbing more space in the center. It's a bit more ambitious way, but at the same time it's a bit more risky. So that's why white made a more stable choice with the move knight f3, simply developing the minor pieces. And now we have the move g6. It's not a great idea. The main move is to take the pawn on e5 nowadays. Maybe because of this game, g6 was considered a bad idea with the black pieces, because now white played the move bishop to c4 attacking the knight goes back to b6 attacking the bishop drops back, and now we have to move bishop to g7. Remember, if black plays something else like knight 8 to d7, white is already having some powerful threats up his sleeves like knight to g5 attacking the pawn on f7, and the only way to protect the f7 pawn is to simply push the pawn, breaking the connection of the bishop to the f7 pawn. But now this time we have a bishop sacrifice with bishop cross e6. Black has to recapture it back, and now after knight cross e6 it attacks the queen, so the queen have to move, and now the f7 pawn drops with the idea of giving a check, and on the next move white is going to capture the rook, and believe me, that's completely winning position for white. So that's exactly why knight 8 to d7 is a bad move, and black have to play the most principled move in the position, which is to play the move bishop to g7. We have queen to e2 because black's idea is already to capture in the center, maybe trading of the queen, so white is trying to keep the queens on the board with queen e2. And now we have the move knight c6. Black is simply developing the pieces. White castled up now, and now we have to move castle by black. If black plays something like bishop g4 developing the final minor piece, it's already a mistake because this time white can sacrifice the bishop once again, attacking the black king, and now black king have to capture the bishop back or else black is going to be a pawn down. And now we have a knight check, and once the king moves, white can simply capture the bishop and white would be a pawn up, and black king is extremely exposed. So that's why bishop g4 is already a bad option. So black decided to play the most principled move once again, castling up. And now we have finally h3 covering the g4 square from the bishop. Black decided to play the move a5 with the idea of playing the move a4 attacking the bishop. White simply decided to push the pawn to a4, not allowing black to gain more space on the queen side, and also now the bishop is not getting trapped anymore. We have a trade in the center, and now we have knight d4. We have once again a trade in the center, and now rook to e1, because currently black was attacking the pawn on e5 two times, so white decided to simply protect the pawn two times. And now we have the move e6. Personally, I think e6, f7, g6, h7 pawn structure is usually bad because white is already having a very strong pawn on e5, which kind of limits the bishop on g7. Instead, bishop d7 would have been a much more flexible option because it does not really commit the move e6, and black is absolutely fine. The e6 was played, and now we have the move knight to d2, first developing the knight. The knight is having many options, knight f3, knight e4. So we have knight to d5, knight to f3 attacking the queen drops back, and now before developing the bishop from the c1 square, white decides to play the move, a good move, a great move, queen e4, just centralizing the queen, because currently in this position white wants to develop the bishop, but there are many options for the white bishop on c1 to get developed. So white is kind of not keeping his all options open, just centralizing the queen for now. And now we have the move queen b4. Black wants to trade off the queens, but white played a very nice move in this position once again, which is bishop to c4. Why this move is nice? Because after knight b6, white is absolutely fine to give up his bishop pair after b3. And after b3, we have a trade on the c4 square, and you will notice that in this position, white is already having some long-term weaknesses because he's having the double pawns on the c file, which is not really recommended. His a pawn is weak, and most importantly, now black is having the bishop pair, and white has just given up his bishop pair advantage. And after b cross c4, now white is only having the dynamic advantage, the fast advantage, because in the long run, in the end game, black is simply going to get better. We have rook to e8. If black plays something like rook d8, trying to simply grab some open file, now we have the move bishop to g5, rook d7, and after bishop f6, believe me or not, black's dark squares are extremely weak and white is pretty comfortable. So that's why black decided to play the move rook to e8, because currently white is simply threatening to play bishop a3 and winning in exchange. So we have rook to e8, and now we have the move rook d1. Finally, white has captured the single open file in the position. We have the move queen to c5. If black plays something like h6, this would have been a much better move because it takes away the g5 square from the bishop, and I personally believe h6 would have been a much better defense compared to what happened in the game, which is queen c5, because now we have queen h4. Now black is no longer having any h6 material. We have b6, black is trying to develop his bishop, and finally the position would be as sounding as possible for black. But now we have bishop e3, once again a great move in the position. Basically, white wants to play the move bishop h6, though it would not be a great idea in this position, because after a bishop trade, black is having this small good move, which is queen f8, just trading off the queens. And in the long run, as I say, because of white's weaknesses, black would simply be happy in this position in the endgame. So that's why first playing the move bishop e3, forcing the black queen to go on the light square, and now finally we have the move bishop h6, and now we have bishop to h8. For example, if black simply develops his position just by playing the move bishop b7, white is ready to capture the bishop on g7, giving a check, and finally we have a crazy move rook to d4 with a crazy maneuvering, and believe me or not, black king is just completely gone. Rook h4, knight g5 is also coming in, and this is a completely winning position for white. So that's exactly what happens if your opponent plays the move bishop b7, or that's exactly what happens if black played the move bishop b7. In the game we had the move bishop to h8, and now white simply jumped in with rook to d8, because you can't really capture up the rook because that would simply be a mate. So that's why after rook to d8, black decides to simply develop the bishop. That makes sense, and once again getting all his pieces into the game, rook to d1. And now we have bishop g7, just asking for a bishop trade. And now we have just rook to d7, denying the bishop trade. The most important question that everybody thinks in this position is, why can't black simply go for capturing the a4 pawn? Because this allows a very crazy idea, which is queen to e7. You can't really capture the queen because the rook is pinned. And now, believe me or not, and white's side is to just capture the rook on a8, get another rook to d8, and that's completely game over for black. That's already 1-0. So that's exactly why black played the move bishop g7. We have rook to d7, and now after rook d7, black decided to play the move rook to f8. Why? Because if black goes for capturing the a4 pawn now, white is ready to capture the bishop on g7, give a check, and believe me or not, white can capture on f7 later in the next move, and that's completely game over for black. So that's why in the game we had the move rook to f8, defending the f7 pawn with the rook. But this time, once again, bishop g7, king g7, rook to d4. It's time to get all the pieces into the game. Rook goes to e8, it's a check, and white played the move h4. What's the idea? The idea is to play the move h5, h6, and there is no stopping g7 mate. So the only way, the most practical option for human, and according to the engine as well, h5, not allowing white to play the move h5, h6. And now it's time. Like, white's position is all better, yeah? He has got all his pieces. He's having a gorgeous position, a weak king, but where's the mate? How can we mate the opponent king? That's the main question. And to answer everybody's question, you can pause the video and try to find the best move that white played in the game. We have a royal king walk, king to h2. The question is, like, what is the idea of king h2? Like, in the game, during the game, I believe opponent after king h2 is still unsure what's the idea of white. So black simply played the move rook to c8. Though a better option would have been bishop c8, attacking the rook, Though white is still winning after knight g5, getting all the pressure on the f7 square. We can give up the rook for free, because after rook f4, we want to simply capture on f7. You can't really defend it. So just capturing on f7, and now g6 is also collapsing. So that's eventually a mate. The rook is also getting in, and that's an unstoppable mate, and that's game over for black. So this, but I believe bishop c8 is at least much better. But as I said, the opponent is still unsure what's the idea of white. Black simply played the move rook to c8, and now we have king g3. We have king to g3. King to g3. What's the idea? The idea is to get this king over here and checkmate. Sorry about that. And checkmate the black king on g7. And the most incredible part in this position here is black can't really stop it. Black can't really able to stop it. Like in the game we had rook e8, king f4, bishop c8, and now we have king g5. And after king g5 the game is over, because even if you try to play king h7 trying to cover the h6 square, white can simply take on f7 and still that's a mate. You can't really stop the mate, that's it. So that's why, like after king g5, black decided to resign the game. If after king g5, if black goes for capturing the rook, white can simply play the move king h6, and that's still a mate. And actually, if after king g5, king h7, white can even take on g6, which is also a very good move, because black pawn cannot take the queen because the pawn is pinned. The king has to move, and that's a check, and the king goes to f6, and once again the checkmate is hanging on the next move on g7. So that's why after king g5 we have a resignation by black. This was an amazing king walk, like the royal king walk. This is what we really call the royal king walk, and this game is a perfect example of getting all your pieces into the game, even your king. To me personally, it was like one of the best games, one of the legendary games, no doubt about it. So yeah, I hope that you guys had fun. If you learned something new, make sure to like, share and subscribe, and I'm going to come up with these more exciting videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching OneShot Chess. Bye bye.